Hi fans of high quality entertainment. How are you? Really? Anyway, today I actually was planning to do just top 10 underrated classic rock albums. Just, 10, maybe not the top 10, but 10 top 10 underrated albums, if that makes sense. But then when I was going through the albums, I was thinking with these different artists, it's like, well, they actually have two albums that are kind of underrated that I love. So I decided to expand the idea and have 10 classic rock artists, fairly well known, with what I feel are two underrated albums each. So here we go. And I would just love your thoughts in the comments section below of what your thoughts are on these albums, and also some other classic rock bands or solo artists that you feel have two underrated, underappreciated albums that you love. Starting with, in no particular order, back in the day, I used to think these albums were good or mediocre. But when I do these rank and review series with the whole discography of the band, this is when I realized that these two albums, maybe they're not as great as some of their more loved albums, but still, they're underrated and they are really, really good. Black Sabbath, Technical Ecstasy, and Never Say Die. I feel they are very underrated. And I see so many videos, and they're like me, they're big Black Sabbath fans, and most times they really don't care for these albums, and I just don't understand it, but because I think they're excellent albums overall. Never Say Die, Johnny Blade, Backstreet Kids, A Hard Road, Dirty Women, Rock and Roll Doctor, Junior's Eyes, just lots of great songs on these two albums. So if you're a Black Sabbath fan and you feel that these aren't very good albums, try and listen to them again because they are excellent. Don't get me mad. Now this is a popular artist, but not a favorite artist for most people, but I am a big fan. And I feel that these two albums by her are very underrated. Yoko Ono, Approximately Infinite Universe, a double album, and one of my top 10 favorite double albums of all time. And the follow-up, Feeling the Space. So on these are more song-based songs on each of these albums. She doesn't, she doesn't do too much screaming on either one of these albums, or I don't think she does any screaming on this, from what I remember. But this, of the two, this is my favorite. This is the one I have played a lot. But this is really good too. So I feel these two Yoko Ono albums are very underrated. So try and give them a chance sometime. This is a band that I talk about a lot, and I've talked about these albums a lot, but still, it frustrates me when so often I'll hear fans talk about these more than one album than the other, but still, they're not as well loved as their earlier albums, and I just don't get it, because I think Yes's Tornado is excellent. And also, one of their later albums, the last one with John Anderson, Magnification, is superb. And Jim Newstead, who was on my live chat yesterday, if you go to his channel, he listened to this on vinyl for the very first time, and he really enjoyed it. So that made me happy. And along with Grand Funk Railroad, my favorite American band, these two, when they came out, I was disappointed in both of them. But through the years, I've grown to really, really appreciate them, and they are way, way better than I thought they were when I first heard them. They are Blue Oyster Cult's Specters, the follow-up to Agents of Fortune, and Mirrors. So when Mirrors came out, I was really disappointed in this because I thought it almost sounded like a sellout album, much more commercial. But playing it now, it's like, maybe it is more commercial, but it's good. It's really good. And Specters, I did like this quite a bit, but it was still kind of a disappointment to me. But like I said, through the years, I've grown to really appreciate the variety on this, and this one is really catchy. And so I hope, doing this video, if there's an artist or two that you're kind of interested in, you give some of these albums another chance.
All I am saying is give these underrated albums a chance.
Thank you. A Canadian band that is not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Shame on you, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they're more known for all of their radio hits, but they made a lot of really, really good albums. And these are two of my favorites that I feel are very underrated. The Guess Who Rockin' and the Guess Who So Long Bannatyne. Check them out. Once again, when these, a big fan of this artist, and when these albums came out, I enjoyed them, but I didn't enjoy them as much as his earlier albums. But in the last few years, I have a new appreciation for both of them. And if the best songs on each of these albums were put into one album, it would be one of his best albums. But still, overall, these are very underrated. So give them another chance, you Frank Zappa fans. Ship arriving too late to save a drive. Take two. Ship, you gotta be careful how you say ship. Ship arriving too late to save a drowning witch. And The Man from Utopia. Yeah, some really, really good songs on this. No Not Now, of course, Valley Girl. I understand some people find it annoying, but I think it's kind of a fun track. I Came From Nowhere, Teenage Prostitute, and then on the other album, Cocaine Decisions. We Are Not Alone, which is a superb instrumental, really catchy. And The Radio Is Broken. Some pretty crazy stuff on these albums, but overall, it's Frank Zappa. And they are both excellent albums. Underrated. Next up, another band I've talked about a lot, off and on, through the years. And after the Beatles, I think, they were my favorite band. In the 60s, after the Beatles, they were my next favorite band. Grand Funk, another name you have to be careful saying. And their albums, especially Survival, it is now, when it came out, I liked it, but I was kind of let down by it. It wasn't as heavy or anything, but now it's my favorite Grand Funk album, Survival. And they do a killer version of Gimme Shelter on this. And also, surprisingly, Phoenix is actually much better than I remember it, because, for a few years I never really played it much, and then getting these remasters through time, I enjoy it a lot more. So, very good and excellent. Underrated, both of them. One of my all-time favorite solo artists. And both of these are, and the other thing is, there's going to be the obvious fans out there of these artists, and you're going to say, that's a great album, it's not underrated. But I'm just saying, overall, for the general fan of these artists that they're underrated. So for Lou Reed, very underrated. And one of my favorite Lou Reed albums, very underrated, Sally Can't Dance and The Bells. If you're a Lou Reed fan and you haven't thought much of these albums, try them again because I love them. Two more artists. And like I said, if you're a fan of David Bowie, you might say that's not underrated, but if you go through his whole discography, it's they're in the middle of the ratings for his whole discography, or the bottom half, and I think they're much better than that. They are Lodger and Earthling Is Awesome. So these are underrated. Go listen to them again right now and then come back and leave a comment. Last but not least, the Rolling Stones. Now this album, I think it has grown in stature slowly through the years, but still, I think it is still underrated. Goat's Head Soup and Emotional Rescue. It is a very good album. And just in the last, maybe couple of years, I've been playing it a bit more, and it's not Sticky Fingers. It's not as great as Sticky Fingers or Beggar's Banquet or whatever, but still, it is a really, really good album, and it is underrated. So there you go. So I would love your thoughts on, the albums I showed, if you're a big fan of any of these, and also, what are some artists where, there's two albums by them that you feel are underrated, and they're much better than the general public feels they are. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.